Hey guys, how is everybody doing today? So, welcome to my channel. This is all about biology all of the time. And today we are going to be talking about review activities. So, I like to throw different types of review activities at my students just to keep things changing with them. They get bored easily. So, I teach high school biology, if you didn't know that. And I like to use different types of activities to like reach different types of students. Not everybody likes to learn the same. And then the students, some days they have more energy, other days they just want to chill and hang out. So I try to reach them where they are with their activities that I give them. So I have 8 different activities that I like just use all the time, not constantly. Like, I'm not going to throw 8 review activities for every single lesson that I give or every single unit, but I mix and match them. So I always know that if I need a review activity for my students, that I have this like group of 8 for every single topic that I teach, that I can just like pull out of my Google Drive and say, okay, this is what we're going to do in class today or tomorrow or next week. So I'm going to share those different review activities with you. So the 8 review activities, yes, I made a list because otherwise I would forget. Okay, number 1, we got escape rooms. That is like my new favorite one. Escape rooms, color with a purpose, search with a purpose. Those 2 are very popular with my students. Then we have Google Forms. I use them in a couple different ways. I'm going to show you 2 different ways. And read with a purpose. This is a new one that I've been doing. It's been really beneficial. And then like the old faithfuls. Okay, we got the Edpuzzles, the Kahoots, and the Quizlet. I'm going to show them to you. If you've never used them, this video will show you how to use them. If you have used them in the past, maybe I like do it a little bit differently so you can learn at least something new from the old faithfuls, the Edpuzzle, the Kahoot, and the Quizlet. All right, so guys, let's dive right in. I'm going to show you all of them. All right, so we're going to start with the first one, which is the escape rooms. So let's go. All right, so let's look at the escape room. So my escape rooms that I use are all digital escape rooms, and they all start with a PDF. So the students have the PDF, and then we click here to enter, and it takes us to the actual escape room. If you're not familiar with an escape room, it is named after the movie Escape Room. Basically, what you're trying to do is escape out of the room. In this scenario, the students are trying to escape out of this hallway. Whenever I do activities, I still want the main focus of the activity to be whatever topic we're talking about. So this escape room is all about the cell cycle, and the students have to answer 15 questions correctly about the cell cycle in order to escape. There is like a decoder hidden. It's called the monster code, but it's not the main part of the escape room. Like, I don't want my activities to deviate too much far from my curriculum because then it's pointless to have them do it. So what they have to do, they have this hallway. They have to start randomly clicking in order to find their way out. In order to do that, they have to find some questions. If they hit the wrong thing, like I just hit this little monster guy, they just have to click to return. So they just have to look, wait, okay, another monster. And here we go. So these are questions 11 through 15. They have an answer sheet. They put their answers on an answer sheet. So it is still a review game because they have to answer the questions correctly, but it's just like an added little thing where now they have to decode the answers and then enter it into a Google form, which is the escape form. And it just makes it changes the review activity just a little bit to make it a little bit more engaging. And some of the time, instead of like 100% of their time has to be focused on answering questions, now they're divided. So now they have to find where to click, they have to find the code, they have to find the 3 different sets of questions. So I like giving them activities like this where they're still focused on the curriculum, on the topic at hand, but they have other things to also like that they have to think about. It just helps them with the engagement. So eventually they'll find this, which is a link to the Google form. They have to enter their letter sequence. So they have to change their answers into a sequence using the monster code. And then if they get it correct, they escape. If they get this wrong, they get to go back to the beginning to this escape room and figure out where they went wrong. If they can't figure it out, I will go and look at their answer sheet and I will tell them which question is wrong, but I won't tell them the right answer. So I'll say, like, okay, no, number 5 is wrong. And I've had students have to do like the same question 4 different times. And finally, just because there's only so many different answers that they can give, they get it correct. Okay, let's move on. So that was the escape room. And that is one of those activities where I do not want to give the students an escape room for every single lesson, because that is something that will get old really quickly and they're not going to be happy with me if I keep throwing escape rooms at them. But what I do like to do is to like batch them together. So that means for maybe like 2 or 3 topics at a time, I will give them an escape room. And that is because it takes them a little bit of time to figure out, okay, like what am I supposed to do? And then I like to have that memory fresh in their mind, so the next time we do something, I'll give them another escape room. Okay, so for example, I gave them an escape room for protein synthesis. I gave them one for DNA replication and for DNA structure. So those were like 3 topics that are very closely related. So I would give them an escape room for each one of those. And then for like my next topic, I would lay off the escape rooms and maybe move on to something else. All right, so escape rooms are done. Let's move on to color with a purpose. So this is another new one that I started this year, and it has been really good. Like my students have really enjoyed this one. So let's go. Okay, let's look at this color with a purpose. So the students get a single worksheet. This is the front. You have some clip art with some terms. This is a genetic one, which I am probably going to bring back this month. And then on the back, they have definitions and then a color. So directions, they have to read the definition and then color in the appropriate color. So again, all this is a matching worksheet. So all I did was take like your traditional matching type of worksheet and just turn it into a coloring worksheet. You can do this with any activity. And yes, I have a video on how to do this. So if you want to do this with a matching worksheet that you have, go look at that video. So the students, okay, they look, different forms of a gene are known as, the answer is alleles. So they find the word alleles and they color it yellow. So let's go back. So we find the word alleles right here. So the center of the flower, they will color yellow. So again, I like this because it combines like your typical matching. So they have to know the definition, but then they also get a little bit of a brain break. Like they just get to color a little bit. Alleles doesn't take very long, but like when they get to the petals, they get like a 1-minute brain break. Not a bad thing, especially when we have 84-minute classes. Okay, let's move on. So that was the color with a purpose activity. And again, it's been like a very good, successful activity for me this year. I just started doing it this year. I was just trying to get them to color, but I still wanted to get those concepts in. So came up with color with a purpose. Okay, let's move on. So next we have search with a purpose. So similar to color with a purpose, except instead of coloring the term, they're going to search for the term in a word search. All right, let's go. So let's see what this search with a purpose is all about. Okay, the word search worksheet, very similar to the color with a purpose worksheet. And so again, you can take any matching worksheet that you have, turn it into a search with a purpose worksheet, and you just give the kids like a little bit more like brain freedom, I call it. They get like brain breaks built into the activity. All right, so what they do, one sheet of paper, word search is on the front, definitions is on the back. So it's matching or fill in the blank, however you want to do it. If you wanted to modify this, you can even make it a matching worksheet, and then they would have a word bank to find the words. I prefer not to do that. I've never had an issue, especially like even with students that I have to modify for, they've never had an issue with this. So the first one, a Punnett square that examines 2 traits shows a blank cross. The answer is dihybrid. So they would write dihybrid, and then I went the wrong way. There we go. Word search. Then they have to find the word dihybrid. If I knew where it was, I would show it to you, but I don't. And this is why I have an answer key, but I don't know off the top of my head where dihybrid is. But you get the idea, okay? They have the definition, they write the term, and then they find the term. Again, do this with any matching worksheet that you have. Don't have a matching worksheet, just create a word search and then use your notes, like your slideshow, the textbook, type in a whole bunch of definitions, and then there you go. And there's even computer programs that will make the word search for you. Okay, let's move on. So that was search with a purpose. And I like to put color with a purpose and search with a purpose together and give the students a choice, because both of them are the same type of worksheet, meaning they have a definition and they have to identify the term. They either identify the term by coloring or by finding the word in the word search. And one of the things that I think is why the students really like these activities is because it also offers them a brain break. So they have to think, they have to find the term, they have to match the term, they have to go back to their notes, they have to use their brain, all of that kind of school stuff. But then they also get to calm down and relax for a little bit. So they get to either color in the part of the worksheet where they identify the term, or they have to search for it in the word search. And sometimes students, I've even noticed, like they'll take the word search one and they, instead of like flipping it over and looking at the definitions, they look at the word search first, and they just want to search for some of the words and find as many words as they can first. And you know what? That is fine. That is fine with me because I teach 84-minute blocks. And if a student needs to take 10 minutes and take a break and just look for some words in a word search, go right for it. Because one of the things that I'm trying to do in my classes is to allow them to take these brain breaks, but I want these brain breaks to still have them engaged in the lesson. So if they are taking a break by coloring in a worksheet that is still about biology, that is fine with me. If they are taking a break and looking for some words in a biology worksheet word search, fine with me. Because if they're taking like a 10-minute brain break out of an 84-minute class, that like I can't expect them to focus and be all about biology for 84 total minutes. So brain breaks are fine with me. So the Google Forms, I use Google Forms a lot. I use them for bell ringers. I use them as exit slips every single day. My students have a bell ringer, then they have an exit slip Google form every single day. I use them as review worksheets, which I'm going to show you. I use them for quizzes, for tests, and now we're even using them for midterm and final exams. So the two main types, I'm going to show you each of them. So the one right here, your traditional Google form. You go to settings, you set it as a quiz so that it's like a self-checking assessment. So you have your question, you have your answers, and then the students will select an answer. So I'll go to preview. So I'm going to show you the difference, like from the student perspective. So here's like my typical bell ringer. I've already responded. All right, let me fix this. Okay, responses, delete. Okay, let's try this again. All right, so preview. All right, here we go. So you just go through, you select whatever you think is the right answer. And sometimes I see my students just doing this. I'm like, did you even read the question? No. So that is one of the downfalls of this type of Google form. So they do get to see their answers and they get to see the right answer if they got it wrong. Let me show you my other one. So this is the one I like to use more as a review activity. It's still self-checking, but the students have to get one question right in order to move on to the next. I have found much more student engagement in this type of Google form than the one I just showed you. So let me show you the difference. So this, when you set it up, exactly the same. You got 4 questions. I added a little picture here at the end, like, oh, congrats, you guys did it. But now let me show you from the student's perspective. They answer one question at a time. They can only move on if they get the question correct. I was playing around with this, so that's why like the answer pops up. But when you send it to a kid, like it's not gonna pop up. But let me show you. Okay. You cross a homozygous tall plant with heterozygous. The answer is 100. That's why I was there. But you type in 100 and you get to move on. Now, if they don't type in the right answer, so what percent will be heterozygous? And the answer is not 25. So I'm going to type in 25. Now hit next. Oops, try again. So they have to keep answering until they get the answer correct. So they do not get to finish this Google form unless they get all of the questions correct. That is why I like this one better, because it can't go through and randomly select an answer and hit submit and say, oh, I'm done. Like, I didn't even read the questions, but I am done. No, 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 no. You have to read the question. You have to understand the question in order to move on to the next question. So much more engagement because they have to be engaged in order to answer it correctly. All right, you want to know how to make this? I'll show you real quick. You can turn any Google form into that type of Google form. So look, all right, which of the following is heterozygous? So it has to be short answer. So to do that, I would just do this. Like I would put the answer choices up in the question. Okay, change this to short answer. Now, so I would change the question a little bit to be like, all right, like which of the following is heterozygous? But I'm not gonna do that right now. Right here, this is what's important. You go to the 3 little dots, response validation. Click here where it says number, I have letters. So I want text contains, and then it would have to be capital T, lowercase t. So in order to move on to the next question, they would have to type in capital T, lowercase t. Error is just what happens if they mess up. So go, oops, try again. Then do not move on to another question right away because you want one section at a time. Each question is a section. So now in order to get to the next question, you have a new section. So you just have to go here to this little equal sign. Your question stays, but now it's a different section, okay? So you do the same exact thing. So I'll do it again, okay? Change it to short answer, same thing. Okay. Go up here, instead of multiple choice, you have short answer, 3 little buttons, response validation, text, contains, let's see, homozygous tall, 2 T's, try again, and you're good. Okay. That is how you turn a normal Google form into one where they have to answer every single question in order to get to the next question. All right, so that is another review activity. Let's move on. So those were just 2 different ways that I use Google Forms. And now let's get right into the next thing, which is read with a purpose. So if you haven't noticed, I have like a trend with my review activities. You got color with a purpose, search with a purpose, read with a purpose. All of my activities, even though it's not always in the title, always have a purpose. So let's get right into the next one, read with a purpose. Okay, so let's look at their reading comprehension. It's read with a purpose. So I create these like articles, and the directions, they have to, as they read, they highlight, circle, or underline key terms. I don't give them a list of key terms. I just say, read, if you think it's a key term, highlight, underline, or circle. I don't take off points if they like miss a key term. These are easier to create than you think. This one's on mutations. Everybody has slideshows. Like we all have notes. All I do is take the notes, like open the notes on one like window, create like a Google Doc on the next, and I just type out my notes. And that's how I create an article. It's super easy, and I like it because the kids get the same information twice in 2 different formats. But what this does, so instead of just reading, they are reading to draw attention to the key terms, and then they highlight them, circle them, underline them, do whatever. And for this particular reading comprehension, I also created some images of mutations, and they have to read, and then they have to color the mutations. I'm finding anything that I have them like writing down or doing something while they're reading, they're more engaged and they pay more attention. And it's just because I just assigned this one, and like the coloring, like some of the kids, I'm like, guys, read the directions. Like, no lie, one of the students had a red colored pencil in his hand, and he was looking at me, and I think it was like one of these. And he said, Miss McCarthy, I don't understand what to color red. I look at him and I'm like, well, the directions say blue and yellow, so I don't know either. And he was like, oh, yeah, just read. So this type of activity, though, does help them read and follow directions. So I like it. I just started doing these this year because I found the students, if I gave them something to read, they would just skim through it. And if I gave them something to read and then answer questions, they would look at the question and they would just try to find the answer. So they're not really reading the entire passage that I would give them. So I had to find other ways to get them to actually read the entire thing. And this is how I did it. So that was the read with a purpose. And I've just started using that, but I find it really beneficial because the students do not like to read. I don't know about your students, but my high school students, it's like I'm trying to pull teeth to get them to read. But for some reason, if I tell them to highlight or color or do something while they're reading, they'll actually do it because they're reading with a purpose and they're not just sitting there and reading. Okay, so read with a purpose is done. Let's go on to the next one, the start of our 3 old faithfuls that I've been using for several years. So if you've never used them, you're definitely going to be using them after this video. Okay, the first one, Edpuzzles. Let's look at some Edpuzzles. Okay, Edpuzzle. Let's look at Edpuzzle. I love Edpuzzle. I use it all the time. It is my students' homework assignments for the entire year. I'll explain that in another video, but So you just create an Edpuzzle account. They are free. They are free for teachers. They are free for students. Edpuzzle is connected to Google Classroom. So if you assign an Edpuzzle on edpuzzle.com, on Google Classroom, it will pop up and the students will click the link and it will take them directly to Edpuzzle. So what you do, here is your Edpuzzle. You type in any type of topic that you are teaching. Let's say cell cycle. You click on a video. Amoeba Sisters are always good. What an Edpuzzle is it's a YouTube video with questions built in. One tip that I have for you, don't do what I did. I used to I would skim through the questions, be like, oh, okay, I'll read the first couple, they're good. Then I assigned it one day and one of the questions was wrong. It wasn't inappropriate or anything like that. It was just the answer was wrong. And that bothered me so much. Because if you're like me, to have a wrong answer built into something like an Edpuzzle, and then every single student is saying, oh my God, this is wrong, this is wrong. I was like, all right, now. So now I go through every single question and make sure the question is something that I've been teaching or I taught or I'm going to teach. So basically, it relates to the content that I need and that the question is correct. So here's an Edpuzzle. You can change and edit the Edpuzzle. So if you go up here to edit, you have all of the questions off to the side. And then if you click a question, it'll pop up over here on the side. So let's say this one, the answer is supposed to be the first one, even though it's not, even though it's correct. You just click this edit button. You can rephrase the question. You can even change it oh, no, this is supposed to be correct. This one's supposed to be wrong. Yeah, I'll switch it back. If you change it, don't be afraid. Don't be like, oh my God, I'm going to change somebody's Edpuzzle on them. No, Edpuzzle just creates a new copy for you. So don't be afraid of changing it. Okay, so let's say I glanced through every single question. I liked them. I made my edits. I hit finish. You assign it up here to a class. I have biology. This is a fictitious class, by the way. So don't think, oh my God, she's going to show student names. No, see, empty. Okay. Once the assignment is here, you have two options. You can assign the Edpuzzle individually to each student, or you can do it as a class. If you want to assign it individually, you just click share assignment. You can just copy this, post it onto Google Classroom, or this is not linked to Google Classroom because there's so many reasons why I couldn't just display it on here and show all my students' names. But if it was over here to the right-hand side, one of these toggles would say post to Google Classroom. You just turn it on and it posts automatically. Okay. The other option, so that is when the students will click on the link, they will complete the Edpuzzle on their own. If you want to do it as a class, you click live mode. You hit start live mode. Again, I didn't link this to a class on Google Classroom, so I have no students. But if I had students in this area right here, they would have a box with every single student's name. And as they log into the Edpuzzle, the box would go from light gray to dark gray. So okay, they are ready. When the students complete it this way, they have their device in front of them, so the Chromebook, the answer pops up on their screen, they answer the question, and then at the end of the video, you will get a score for every single student. So this is Edpuzzle two different ways, individual or as a class. Okay, let's move on to the next review activity. So that was the Edpuzzle. Very beneficial, lots of different ways. But this is another one, just like with the escape room, the kids get tired quickly. So I try not to assign too many Edpuzzles. Usually though, I am assigning an Edpuzzle every topic or every other topic. And that is because I use them as homework assignments. And I'll explain it to you in another video because it's homework, but it's not homework at the same time. They start it in class, get to retake it home. So I'll explain that later. It's worked great. It's the only homework assignment I have all year, so they already know what it is. But I'll get into that later, but that is why I will assign those more frequently than the escape rooms. Again, every topic, every other topic. Yes, the kids start to get sick of it, but they know what to do. They know how to do it. I don't even have to explain anything. I'm here's the Edpuzzle. They can go find it on the actual website now, which is big for them. Again, my kids, unless I lay it out in front of them, they're I don't understand. Miss, where is it? I don't get it. So now they get it because they do it over and over. All right, so the next one after the Edpuzzles, we got Quizlet. All right, let's look at the Quizlet. Okay, Quizlet. So let's look at Quizlet. So again, this is a free website. There is a paid version, but there's just the free version just fine. The students can create an account, you can create an account, you can just post your link to Quizlet onto Google Classroom so that the students can just have easy access to it. And then you just create study sets. So basically Quizlet is like online flashcards. So let me show you, like these are my classes, my study sets. These are all of my study sets, pretty much like one per topic. So like this is the genetics one. So you can do an in-class activity with Quizlet. I don't do that as much. If I do in-class activities, it's usually Edpuzzle or Kahoot. But the self-study is what the students really like. So you create the study set, and then they can use them as flashcards. So like they try to answer this question, and they hit it, and there's like, that's the answer. So go to the next one. Okay, an organism that has 2 different alleles for a trait. Try to think of the answer in their head, heterozygous. And then they go to the next one. Okay, so there's different things they can do, like learn. So there's games, memorize it all. I'm not going to go through them all. Okay, they can take like a multiple choice type test, and they can do matching. This is more of like a game type thing. So you have to drag the term to the definition, and like that's wrong. So you have to try again. So I'm just going to stop this. I'm going to go back. If you've never done Quizlet before, it is easier than you think to make an actual study set. So let me show you quickly just to get started. So I want a new study set. I'll just call it Gen 2, Genetics 2. Okay. Quizlet has so many terms that you don't have to think of the terms well, you have to think of the terms, but not necessarily the definitions. Let me show you. So homozygous. See, it pops right up, and so do a whole bunch of definitions. Okay. You just pick whichever one sounds more like the definition that you gave the students. You can even add images. So they have examples of what homozygous looks like. Okay. So Quizlet, very easy to create a Quizlet. The students love it. Again, there's 4 different options for the students to use Quizlet and 2 different live mode Quizlet versions for the teachers. Okay, the last one, we got Kahoots. And Quizlet is one of those activities where I got into Quizlet because of my students. They were asking for it, and they continue to ask for it. Every single time I have a quiz or a test or a midterm or a final, the first words out of their mouth are always, is there a Quizlet? Do you have a Quizlet? Is there like one Quizlet, or are there 5 Quizlets? Miss McCarthy, like, can I have one Quizlet? Can you just make the exam into one big Quizlet for me? Or they'll say, oh, Miss McCarthy, I don't want that. Can I have like 5 different Quizlets to cover the 5 different topics? So yes, guess what I get to do? I get to go and create 5 different Quizlets and then merge them into one Quizlet to satisfy everybody. But I don't mind because they really like Quizlets. It's like the up-to-date version of a study guide. That is the equivalent, I think, like in my eyes right now. They do not want the pen and paper study guide anymore. Some of them do, but those few are in the minority. At least in my school, like in all of my classes, the pen to the paper ones, they'll do it, but then they want to go back to the Quizlet. They really like the Quizlet. I think it's because they're always like on their phones or on their computers. So Quizlet, if you never used it, definitely use it. And there are so many different ways you can use it. All right, last one, Kahoot. Let's go look at some Kahoots. Okay, so the last review activity that we're going to talk about is Kahoot. Now, Kahoot, again, you got a free option and you have paid. Kahoot's really trying to get everyone to do the paid option. I was actually surprised they like changed their home screen and everything very recently. So this is March 2023, by the way, if you're watching this like at a later time. So let me show you. Okay, so here's your home screen. In order to find a Kahoot, so you go to Discover, and again, you can just do the free version. I have the free version, totally fine. The students will be able to access the Kahoot, no problem. It connects great with Google Classroom. So you go to Discover, and right here, which is really hard to find because the search bar is very tiny, you click on it, and let's say I want a genetics Kahoot. Now this is what has changed. Okay, look, there's actual courses, there's all, and then there's Kahoots. I just want the Kahoot, so I'm going to click Kahoot. But then see where it says like the Plus Access Pass, that is all paid. You cannot access those Kahoots unless you have the paid membership, or if you want to purchase one, which I do not. So I'm going to click on one that's free. The free ones, I've never had an issue with the free ones. But the same thing as with the Edpuzzles, go through the questions and check and make sure they're correct. I've never had an issue with Kahoot though, but I just like to go through, read the question, make sure it's like the correct answer. And I like to see like how much time. 20 seconds is good. Sometimes I've made the mistake of doing a Kahoot and I don't check the time and they get like 1 minute per question, way too long. But again, you can edit these. So let's say I wanted to change one of these questions, delete one, change an answer. You click the edit Kahoot button. It makes a copy for you. You create a duplicate and then it just lets you make a copy and you can change any of the questions. So I'm going to save, like this is just fine. Can save to drafts. Okay, so perfect. Let's say I want to exit. There we go. All right, so there we go. We're done. All right, let me just go back. Let me find the genetics Kahoot again. All right. Go down. Okay, this is free. There. Note 2 activities. See, this is why I'm like, Kahoot, you changed on me. Oh, I want Kahoots. There we go. All right. Now, let's say I want to assign it to the students. You have 2 different ways. So you can assign it individually and then they get to play. I like this. They tend to like compete against each other. There's a nickname generator. I turn this, like I leave it off and I tell the students you need to give me your first name and last initial so that I can give you credit for the Kahoot. That prevents them from creating like crazy nicknames. So if you don't want to assign it individually, just click start and you have yourself a live Kahoot that you can play in the classroom. Okay. And I must say, after looking at this new Kahoot website, I am not a fan, Kahoot. I am not a fan. All right. That is all 8 activities. So those were 8 different review activities that you can do with your students that usually keeps them engaged. I say usually because they're high school kids. They're a little bit unpredictable, but I would say 98% of the time, my students, if I give them like one of these 8, they will be engaged for the assignment. So just to recap, okay, we had, let's see, escape rooms, color with a purpose, search with a purpose, Google form, read with a purpose, and then Edpuzzle, Quizlet, Kahoot. So some tips that I will give to you about using these different review activities, and these tips probably apply to all review activities that you're going to use. The first thing that I've noticed is change it up. I think I've said it before in this video, but don't assign the same review activities all year unless there's a reason why you're assigning the same review activity all year. Like I assigned Edpuzzles all year because they're my homework assignments. So there's a purpose. And yes, the kids do get bored with the Edpuzzles, but I'm just telling them like, too bad. You're still doing them. It's your homework assignment. But the other ones I will change up. So for example, the color with a purpose and the search with a purpose, I haven't used those since January. Yes, because we took our midterms in January. So I haven't used those since January and I'm going to start to bring them back. So around the end of this month, I'll bring them back. But what I did was I just swapped them out. So I swapped out color with a purpose and search with a purpose and I put in the escape room and the read with a purpose. And so now my students are starting to get a little bit tired of those 2. So I will swap those out and bring back the color and the search with a purpose just to keep them like constantly changing. And so they're not getting too used to stuff and they're not getting too bored in class. I know sometimes in biology it can be a little bit tough, but I try every class to not let them get bored. Okay, the other tip that I have is change when you assign them. So what I mean by that is, okay, like the read with a purpose, sometimes I will assign that at the beginning of a unit before I even give them notes. I'll say, here, this is what we're going to be doing. I want you to read this passage, highlight the key terms, color if it's necessary, label a diagram if it's necessary. But basically, like, this is your introduction. Other times, I will use that after I give the notes, more to like reinforce the concept. And then sometimes if I don't use that read with a purpose for at either of those 2 points in a lesson, I will use it as like a midterm exam review or a final exam review. So I'm switching up when I'm using that lesson. And sometimes some of them work better for sub-assignments than others. The read with a purpose, color, and search with a purpose are great for sub-assignments. The escape room, I don't like to use those as sub-assignments because if there's ever a technical issue, it's really easy for the students to just say, yeah, I didn't understand, so I didn't do it. So with the color and the read with a purpose, it's like, no, you can't really say that because you know how to read, you know how to color, so you can do it. But yeah, so most of these you can use as sub-assignments. Kahoot and Edpuzzles and Quizlets, I do like to assign for sub-assignments because the students use those year-round too, so they already know how to do them. All right, so guys, there you go. You got 8 different review activities. If you use them, let me know. If you use them like the Edpuzzles or Kahoots or the Quizlets in a way that I haven't mentioned, share it in the comments below because I probably don't know about it either and I would like to know. All right, but guys, have a great rest of the day. Have a great weekend whenever you watch this, and I'll catch you on the next video.